Okay, and we are now live on Facebook as well. Hello, everyone out there in Facebook world. Welcome to WTF Live, Window Treatment Friday Live. And we have a really great presentation in store for everyone today.
We're excited. Anyone who has ever seen the transformation that happens when the window treatments are installed, whether in place of all treatments or in play or when there was nothing there at all,
Right, exactly.
we have witnessed the incredible change that happens to the room, and we're here today to showcase some of that. But before we do that, why don't we introduce ourselves real quickly?
Sure.
My name is Vita. I am the owner of Vitalia Inc. Window Treatments and Awnings. We are a Philadelphia-based company, and we are a fabrication, measurement, installation, project management company of window treatments and awnings to the trade. So if you're a designer in the tri-state area, please give us a call, contact us. We would love to support you on your next project.
And I am Kimberly. I am with WindowWorks. We are located in Livingston, New Jersey. We have a showroom. We are open to the public, and we also service interior designers in the New York, New Jersey area. We service window treatments and awnings as well.
Awesome. So without further ado, let's get started.
So today's episode is before and after. So like Vita was saying, a lot of times we go into projects where clients don't have any window treatments. And this is an example of that. This was one of my clients over here locally to us in Whippany. They had lived in the home for about 6 years, and they had never put any window treatments in their family room. So yeah. So the client, I used to do Facebook Live and do window treatment episodes, and she happened to catch one of my Facebook Live episodes when I did it back in the day solo 2 years ago. And she gave us a call because she had windows that could not accommodate an inside mount. So from there, we were able to transform her room from this to this. So she really wanted to have a warmer feel to the space. So what we did was we did outside mounted woven woods with stationary sheer panels over top. So you can see how much window treatments just really enhance the project. Without it, the room kind of felt a little bare and a little naked. I almost feel like it's like you put on this really great outfit and a really great dress, and you forget to put on like a piece of jewelry, a piece of, earrings or something. So it's just the finishing touches that really give it to this space. Now, we were dealing here with a corner window, so we had a couple of obstacles trying to make sure all the windows, there's another window in the room that you don't see, making sure all the windows lined up. We had a bunch of different ceiling heights happening in this space. So she even said so herself when I went back a year later. Yeah, exactly. When I went back a year later to do the dining room, she said, the window treatments just completely finished off the room. And she wasn't.
You know what I really like about this? Sorry.
It's okay. No. Go ahead.
I love how you chose to do dark woven wood shades and combine them with lighter panels. And the panels are sort of monochromatic to the color of the wall. At least in the picture, that's what they look. And but they're really setting off against the Roman shades, which I think is really quite great.
When the furniture that you saw in the previous picture, that was furniture that they had prior. So what I was dealing with too is just little swatches, because all this was like she did a complete reno on this space in terms of furniture and other things as well. So we wanted to bring in, so you can see here, we wanted to bring in the warmth of some of the pieces of furniture and also to the light. So I love how the contrast of the darker wovens with the lighter drape. And you could also even do the reverse of that too, if you wanted to go with a lighter woven wood and a darker, drape. But yeah, it made the room feel cozy. So yeah.
Nicely done. Okay, so here we have the before picture at the top, and we have the after picture on the bottom. And you can see in the before picture, these panels are tied back, which was quite popular in the 80s and the 90s, but not so much in the 21st century. So that's number one. Number two is you see these drapery panels installed very low on the window. I mean, it's practically I mean, it's barely clearing the window at the top. What you're seeing in the after picture is that all of these panels have become straight because
Hmm.
now everything is sleek and streamlined, and we're just looking for those simple lines now in window treatments. So that's number one, the shape of it. And then number two, nowadays we do everything possible to elevate the eye. And by
Hmm.
that, we're elevating the whole room. So we mount everything pretty much as high as sometimes as high as possible, and as high as we want to, and the customer would allow us to.
Yeah, so like that's a good point. If you see in the before picture how close the rod is to the window, it almost is making the room feel squatty, especially since you are dealing with two different ceiling heights again in here in this room. So on,
Exactly.
the back wall, the ceiling height goes up, and then you have the pitch of the roof that goes along the other side. So in order to continue going up, you always want to bring the rod up as high again as the customer will allow it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard for customers to kind of um,
Hmm.
grasp that point. I don't know, Kim, if you've encountered that,
Right. I have.
especially I think some of the I think older customers who
Hmm.
actually are very familiar with custom window treatments,
Right.
but in the past they've always done it very low on the window. I mean, you barely clear the molding up at the top, and so sometimes it's a little bit of an education to show them how much better and more open and more grand the window treatments would look, and the whole room would look if we were to put the rods up high on the window.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Okay.
Here you go.
So here we have a before. This is a bathroom that we did for Brit Design Studio. And this was for the master bathroom, and we had the challenge of doing an arch top Roman shade. So you'll see on the left, that was what it looked like before we installed our Roman. And so what the challenge was here is that the designer selected, Andrea selected a very sheer fabric. So typically with an arch, a lot of times you'll have a board that goes straight across so that this way that's where you mount the mechanism to. But we didn't want to see that board that went straight across. So we were able to do the operation of the Roman as like a cord lock, but it was one that you have to wrap around a cleat. So that this way it just kind of gave a clean line to the
Hmm.
Roman shade without having to see that board going across. So there are ways to get around this where you can get just a simple top of the arch. And we also did a welting because a lot of times with arch windows, we have found that it's not always straight. So without the welting, you might have a little bit of a gap. So that's another fun, cool tip that just, prepare yourself. You want to do a welt up there. It's just an insurance policy so that this way, any kind of nudgy, weird gaps that you might have, the welt will cover that up.
So let me make sure I understand this, Kim. You actually
Hmm.
didn't put a cord lock. You didn't put any kind of system in the back. All you had were the strings, and the shade
Hmm.
operated via the strings and the cord, and you
Hmm.
tied it onto a cleat so it would stay open.
Hmm. Right. So it's like a really old school way of how Roman
Right.
shades used to be made. This is not the typical norm, but the goal and the objective here was not to have something obstructing the view. So we opted to go with this kind of old school way of operating a shade. And so
Hmm.
the client did know that if she wanted to pull it up, she has to bring it up and then tie it off to a clear cleat that we put on the inside. And they had a decent inside mount here. So,
Nice, nicely done. And
yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't so heavy because it was made out of sheer, even though it's
Yeah.
a significant size, as I can tell from the picture. But with the sheer
Yeah.
fabric, it's not so heavy that, she really has to use the elbow grease.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you were picking a heavier fabric, then the heavier fabric, you're not gonna have as much light opacity, so we probably could have gotten away putting the wood board going across in order to mount a clutch or, a typical standard cord lock too.
Nicely
Right.
done.
Thank you.
So this is clearly a before
Ooh,
picture. So
yes.
this was probably done originally, I would think, in either in the 80s or the 90s.
The
This was
90s,
a
yep.
gorgeous house in Montgomery County, which is outside of Philadelphia. Beautiful master bedroom and gorgeous windows. I mean, there's this whole, you can see it's kind of like a huge bow window, and what you're not even seeing, there's
Hmm.
two other windows on this side flanking the fireplace, kind of like from where I'm standing. It's off to
Hmm.
the right from me. And back in the 80s and 90s, this is what we did, and we thought that was beautiful. So let's not, not be too judgmental. Things evolve and we change as things
And
go along.
things
So
come
that's
back.
okay. I know, right? And this may come back in like 10 years. We're like, oh, this is great. So anyway, so
Yeah.
so these were these are called Kingston valances with stationary drapery panels.
Hmm.
It was done in sort of like these mauvey greenish type of
Oh,
colors, and then you
okay.
see this pattern of the stripe going on there. So not at all what we do now.
No.
And so, are you guys ready?
Yes. Ooh, much better.
This is what it looked like
Ooh.
when we finished. And so the designer for this is the very talented Karen Givnish from The Great Room, which is a wonderful design firm
Mhm.
located in Bluebell. And you can tell that she repainted the place. She usually pays particular attention to the ceilings. All her ceilings are quite beautiful. She put these two beautiful chaises in front of between
Mhm.
the bed and the fireplace. You can kind of see a little peek there. And of course the window treatment. So we took down the Kingston valances,
Mhm.
and of course here again the shape is your straight panels. We're going for that simplistic, streamlined, kind of more modern type look.
Nice. And did they have in the before picture, what kind of shades did they have on the windows? Were they just like
The
roller
shades,
shades?
the shades we actually kept, believe it or
You
not. The
kept,
shades
yeah.
were in good shape. These were cellular shades. I forget now which fabricator
Mhm.
it was. It was done before me, and
Right.
they were in okay shape. So we decided to keep those. So we only changed the painting, of course, some of the furniture, and of course the window
Mhm.
treatments. And what an amazing difference.
So yeah, that's just an example of like you don't have to, get rid of everything. It's just a simple matter of just changing out the panels and keeping the shades, and look how much, how modern and how lightweight you feel. Like you feel like you can breathe, you know? It's not
Yeah,
like
yeah, exactly.
it's not like all this fabric and everything all over the place. It just and also too, another thing to point out was look how much higher the ceilings look in this
Hmm.
picture by bringing the panels right under the crown as opposed to the valances chopping off the room and everything else. It just brings everything up and makes
Yep.
it not feel light and airier, but it gives homage to how high the ceilings are.
Absolutely. And another thing I wanted to point out, a little bit of a technical thing, is you will see, I earlier said a bow window, but really what it is, it's a giant bay window because
Yeah,
bays have the corners.
corners.
And in the corner, you will see that we actually did the rod that really fit the corner.
Hmm.
So we have the panel on the left and the panel on the right. It's the same panel and it spans the rod. And inside that rod, we're using an elbow bracket. Um,
Hmm.
so that the two rods can really meet nicely in the corner. The one thing to keep in mind with that is anytime you have any kind of corner rod, you need to have the brackets to support both sides of the rod.
Right.
So don't think just because the rods are small, short, you only need two brackets on the sides. No, what will happen is they will be supported on the outside and they will cave in on the inside. So you need four brackets
Yep.
even for two short rods like that.
Yep. Absolutely great
Been
tip
there,
to
done
know.
that, made that mistake, right, Kim?
Yeah. It's always better to have a bracket or two as insurance.
That's
That's
true.
always what I say. Okay, so this room was done. This is the before shot for Ellie Moreau's Designs in Westfield. This was a client that we did last. I actually went there a year ago. Yeah, it was a year ago today that I went and
Oh,
measured this
nice.
project. That's so funny. So yeah, this was the before. This is the client's dining room. They had just moved in and they were kind of using it as like a, little playroom space. And the after is going to blow your mind.
Uh-huh. Hold on just one sec. Ta-da!
Boom. So that's
Boom.
what Ellie was able to do and transform this room into. So in the before
It's
pictures, the
incredible.
client, since they had just moved in, had paper, yeah, had paper shades. So what we did here was in this where this bump out, where this window, where the bank of windows are, there wasn't a lot of space between the top of the window molding and the ceiling detail there. So we opted to go with a very thin uh, traverse rod, and we went with a ripple fold, which isn't something that you typically do with just a smaller stationary panel. But we didn't have a lot of space, and but we wanted the room to still feel modern. So
Mhm.
and I think it worked out, even though it's not like a typical thing to do a ripple fold, like what I have behind here. Behind me is a ripple fold drape, and that you usually do as a draw drape, or you want it to be wider to really appreciate it. But we didn't have a lot of room here, and the pinch plate just didn't feel appropriate for this space. So we went for that. We added
Interesting. Okay.
a decorative trim along the side, and then we did the black woven wood shades, and we actually lined them in white. And the reason for doing that was so that you could really
Wow. I don't think I've ever
appreciate,
done that, Kim. Black shade
yeah,
and
and
lined in white. It's really different.
yeah, so then that way you could actually really appreciate the woven material because if you were to line it in a black, even though black light filtering liner, you're never going to get that texture that goes through it. It's just going to be, black shade,
Mhm.
black lining. So with doing the white lining, you actually get to appreciate the texture a little bit more. It was a little bit of a risk, but I think it worked out really great.
And do you remember who you got the shades from? The black
Those are
shades
from
specifically.
their Horizon.
Horizon, black shades from
Mm-hmm.
Horizon. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now you make me think that I don't think I have the most updated sample book because I don't remember seeing a black shade in
Yeah, we actually had this one. I think we did this one in our old showroom space. It was right above my desk, so I knew like when Ellie asked for a black shade, I said, okay, I know where to pull from. But yeah, so I just felt like I remember looking at the lining in black and feeling like it's just going to make the room feel so dark, and I felt like lining it in the white, it just makes the room expand that much further, made the room feel that much longer because the black would have just made it feel like boof, it's just dark, where the
Mhm.
white lining
Right,
just
right,
made
right.
it continual. And you got
It's
to
almost
really
like
see the texture.
it's almost like you know how when we do woven woods and we don't line them, you can see the texture better. But in
Exactly.
this situation, you created the unlined look by using
Mm-hmm.
a white lining against as a
Exactly.
contrast on the black shade. So you like you fooled us all twice.
Right, right, because privacy was an issue because you could see from the street right through to the kitchen and to the back of the house. So that was one of the other challenges was we needed to get privacy, but you also wanted it to feel light and airy. So
That's
yes.
ingenious, Kim. I've been doing this 15 years. I've never done this, so I learned something new today.
Yeah, even our installer was like, "Why did we line them in white?"
And you're like, there's reason to my
There's
madness, Billy, just
reasons.
do
There's
it.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it is different. It is different, and I think it worked out great. So don't be afraid to play around with lining. That's a
It
lesson
did.
that.
All right. So here we have a family room. This was a project we did for a designer of ours, a design firm named Gasig Design Group,
Hmm.
headed by a very talented principal designer and owner, Richard Gasig. They're based in Bucks County in New Hope, and they do projects, of course, all over the Philadelphia area and some New Jersey as well. And this particular project was in Jenkintown, just outside of Philadelphia. This was a family room. The new owners, this was a very old house, and the owners moved in and they pretty much decided to redecorate the whole house. So even though this was a very old and traditional house, their furniture, as you can tell, was very modern and sleek, very low to the
Hmm.
floor. So, and you can see that the windows look quite naked.
Yeah,
So here's what we did here.
nice.
Ta-da. So
Yes.
these are functional traversing draperies
Hmm.
because what happens is these windows, these are older windows, and they open inwards. So they
Mm,
open into the
mm,
room. So there's no way that we could put any kind of shade on it, not a roller shade,
mm-mm,
not Roman shade, nothing that we could put
nothing.
inside to give them privacy. Naturally, they're facing the street, and privacy was an issue. So the only solution here was to go on the outside of the window, and we really wanted
Mhm,
to add the drapes to kind of add that drama to the room. So we installed it about just below the crown molding, and
mhm,
it's done on a traverse rod with a flat fascia. And we
mm,
talked about these types of rods in our hardware episode a few weeks ago. There's some really great, sleek hardware pieces right now, options where you can still traverse the drape so it can move back and forth, it can close on the window, it can provide you with the privacy and light control and all that good stuff, the functionality we refer to it, but at the same time not be either your I want to say ugly, but like that commercial looking, wide traverse rod that nobody
yes,
wants to see. Um, but at the same time, not be like that super traditional, bulky, round kind of rod. So this option is sleek, modern, contemporary, just really nice, nicely done for the 21st 2020. Even though this
yeah.
was done in 2019 last year, we did this project.
So with this, so you had to make sure that the panels were wide enough so
Hmm.
that this way it could clear when they wanted to open the windows.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for noticing, Kim. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So each window was about 48 inches. So we had to clear it enough. And I think in this
Mhm,
case, let me just do this math real quick. So 48 divided by 2 would be 24, and the third of 24 would be, we'll say about 7 or 8. So I think we cleared by about 7 or so inches on each
mhm.
side. And what that math is that I just did real quick in my head is by how much we need to clear the panel so that when it is drawn open, it completely stacks off the window.
Mhm.
And in this case, they wanted to see the light, and they wanted to see these windows are really unique and very pretty. And so we didn't want to cover up any of the window when they wanted them open, but at the same time, we wanted them to make them close too.
Yeah. Okay, now this was a project that we did for Susie Chusett Designs. It was local here in Livingston, and this room was a room that was done, it was a guest room. It was done back in the 80s. So you have your swags, and you can see the sage carpet. What you don't see is the headboard on the other side of the room, match the valances and all that good stuff, because that's what we did back in the 80s and 90s. Everything matched. So what they transformed this space to was I used to have a desk here, was to a little sitting nook. So that's what we did. So we kept the silhouettes that were on originally because the client had just replaced those a couple years back, and so there was no need again to start over with that. So what Susie likes to do is really bring height to the space, and she loves working with cornices. So we brought, again, it's all about bringing window treatments up and making the room feel taller. We brought the cornices down maybe about an inch or so from the ceiling, so that this way, with the lighting that they had in the room, you had to be careful with that because I've gotten burned on that before with vents and lighting. So when installing, my piece of advice is always look up and see what's going on in the ceiling, and if your treatment is able to clear it and everything else, because I got burned by a vent one time, an air conditioning vent. um, so with that, we added just really pretty stationary panels on the side and a really beefy cornice to just, make this sitting nook more to the 21st century and more into, 2019. This was done last year. So,
Nice. I like the selection of the fabric here and the color.
yeah.
It feels like a pretty small room. So by going lighter on the fabrics here and the
Hmm.
in the cornices and panels, it kind of expands the room and doesn't bring it down and
Right.
inwards.
Yeah, the room was it was an odd room. It's like an L-shaped room. So you walk in and they have the bed here, and then that sitting area just kind of goes across. So you have this like little niche. So that was the other challenge was you didn't want to have so much window treatment in this little niche area, but you needed a nice backdrop to this new sitting area that they created here.
Nice. Okay, and here we have a before
Mhm.
picture of one of my favorite projects that we
Yes.
did last year, and 8 windows in all. This is a two-story family room for by a builder called Rockwell. A Rockwell Custom, and they're a builder here in the Philadelphia area. And this particular house was in Pennington, so they do venture out to New Jersey as well. And it was really great builder and wonderful to work with, and they build beautiful homes. And the designer that has referred this client to us, she is Rose Zeffirino from Z Domus
Mhm.
Designs. She's a wonderfully talented rising star who has done many projects in this area and has worked with many builders. Her specialty actually is working with builders and helping those new homeowners with all of their selections for the new build. So when the customer is ready to talk about the finishes and selection and some of the soft furnishings inside, that's when she brings us in to do the window treatments. So this was her referral, and you can see that this grandiose family room, we really wanted to accentuate it and build the
Mhm.
drama. So what we did is here's a rendering of what we wanted to do, what we're proposing, because sometimes it's difficult for clients to kind of visualize what it is.
Mhm.
And so here we propose to do 8 stationary drapery panels with what's called a blocking technique. And blocking is when you use different fabrics in portions of the panel going lengthwise. So here we're doing 3 different
Mhm.
fabrics at the top, in the middle, and at the bottom. And this is what the final result looked like.
Woohoo.
Thank you. This was a challenging measurement and a challenging install.
Yeah.
The one of the challenges was that we definitely wanted to make sure that the 3 parts aligned with the windows. So if you look closely,
Mhm.
you can see that the top fabric, which was a very pretty embroidered fabric, it goes from the crown down to the bottom of the first window. And then the middle fabric aligns with the wall space between the 2 windows. And then we have the bottom fabric at the bottom. And we actually submitted this project to the IWCE Vision Awards, and we they just recently had a virtual type of award ceremony, and we're very
Ah,
proud
yeah.
that we received second place in the category, and of a very
Mhm.
competitive category. So anyway, so this was one of my favorite projects from last year. Wonderful people, wonderful designer, and I'm just really proud of it, the way it came out.
So talk to us because I know I've made this mistake before when especially you're doing any kind of banding or anything else in terms of when you're selecting your fabrics because I 2 years ago um we did a window treatment where we had a banding at the bottom and that fabric was a little bit it was a heavy fabric and the top fabric was a sheer.
Hmm.
So we ended up lining the sheer with itself and the client was unhappy so we redid it um because she couldn't
Because it
really
came
see
out too sheer.
because she couldn't see through the sheer and that's what she wanted. She wanted to be able to see through it. So, but because of the weight of the bottom fabric, it was causing a pucker. It was too much weight
Hmm.
for the port it. So, talk to us how you got to this decision on selecting the fabrics and making sure that the fabrics were able to hold all the weight so you wouldn't get that puckering
Yeah.
effect.
So you bring up a really good point, Kim. When you do blocking technique, and especially when you do it in panels that are really long like this is over 200 inches long
Hmm.
because this is a two-story family room, very familiar to us here in the
Right.
North. I think it's really important to pick the fabrics that are somewhat similar in weight. So, and also similar in kind of the makeup of the fabric. So, for example,
Hmm.
if we were to have 100% linen at the top and a poly at the bottom, what would happen is the linen would stretch and the panel would ultimately puddle on the floor, and we didn't want to do that. So
Right.
in this case, not only did the weight of the fabric was somewhat similar, but also the makeup of it. This was a poly blend essentially, or like a linen blend. So
Hmm.
that makeup of the fabric was similar as well. And now that I'm remembering this, one of the reasons that we decided to put the embroidered fabric at the top is because it was actually the heaviest of the three fabrics. Because I originally wanted to do the embroidery on the bottom for two
Hmm.
reasons. I really want the embroidery to be a showcase because it's gorgeous. And also because I kind of wanted to flip the color scheme. I wanted to have the lighter blocks at the top, lighter block at the
Hmm.
top, then medium block, and then the darker block at the bottom. And here, for the very reason that you're bringing up, Kim, because it would have been a disaster, that embroidered, it's a very, very heavy embroidery. It's
Hmm.
almost like, it's just very heavy in
Right.
its weight, that it would have just really pulled the whole panel, and there was no way for me to control the length. And on any panel that is 100 inches, sometimes it's difficult to control the
Right.
length, alone when you have 200 inches and when you have 8 of them.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of how I think, Kim, you brought it up several times. It's function over beauty. And
Hmm.
we oftentimes have to balance both. And so even though in my ideal world, I would have loved to switch the color palette, here the function came before. I mean, they're still beautiful, of course. And it is because,
Absolutely.
but we had to take function into the account.
Yeah, because I mean, you're distributing the weight all the way at the top. So 200 inches, I can't even imagine if the heavier one was at the bottom, what would it, you know, what would it look
I,
like?
it would have just like
Yeah.
sprawled on the floor.
Yeah, it would not have been a good look. So,
Exactly.
okay. All right. Well, that concludes this, week's presentation of before and afters. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have any questions, be sure you can always reach out via email. If you have a topic that you would like us to discuss, do not hesitate to ask. And we have a couple of free goodies. Oh, hold on one second. We have a Facebook question here from Lenore.
Hi, Lenore. I know Lenore.
And
Love
she
your
said,
presentations, ladies. It would be helpful if there was a way to see the pictures bigger and the two of you smaller. I know, Lenore. I would love to make me smaller too.
you don't, we, we've tried, but we can look into the technology a little bit more. We are using Be Live on Facebook. So, in order to get our screens to all match, or at least to get the presentation in, this is what we have found that works the best. But we can keep looking and keep trying.
I know.
And
We've
that,
even tried, Lenore, we've even tried to have the presentation vertical, kind of like
hmm,
not landscape, portrait
yeah,
style. And what happens is the page goes portrait, but the images still go landscape. So,
yeah,
go figure. This is awesome technology. I mean, the fact that we can go live on two different
right.
platforms at the same time and show pictures, I mean, that's pretty cool as it is. And we've always want better and more. And, and this is one of those things that where we're a little bit limited by what we have. But like Kim said, if you guys know of a technology that does
Let us
pictures
know.
better, please, by
But
all
yeah,
means.
but that is something that we are constantly looking into and trying to change. And then Lenore also had a question: did you have weights on the shears for the color blocking, Vita?
So mine weren't shears. So I think the question may be for you when you had that other shear. So all of mine, those three, let me go up. So those three fabrics, none of them are shears. They're all your standard opaque kind of fabrics. If you're thinking that the white fabric at the bottom is a sheer, it's not. If you were to put it against the light, it is, I mean, it's light filtering, but it's not a sheer.
It's not a shear yet. From the picture, it almost looks like it could be a shear.
Gotcha.
So
But I think the question may be for you, Kim. You were saying that you had the sheer and then the solid fabric on the bottom.
I didn't have a weight at the bottom because that would have just been even more weight.
Right.
But yeah. But if you were to do a shear, Lenore, It was for you, Vita. Yeah, it was for you
Oh,
on the
for
card
me.
like yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that
I answered it, Lenore.
yeah. So not a sheer, but it does look like a sheer. Okay.
Understand.
Alrighty. So for those of you who are new, we have a free ebook on the WindowWorks website. Architectural Digest is not coming. 10 things you need to know about custom window treatments. Luann wrote it a couple years ago. So if you really want to get a little education on window treatments, the basics, window treatment 101, you can head on over to that site and download our free ebook.
Awesome. And I also have a little free goodie for you guys.
Mhm.
On my website, you can grab your gift. It is 37 and a half window treatment ideas for interior designers that you can swipe, steal, and make your own on your next interior design project. It's a whole deck of images, pictures curated by yours truly, where I kind of tell you where to pay attention to, why I've done certain things. So I kind of curate the whole thing.
Real quick, Vita, Lenore has another question. But Vita, did you weight the bottom so the drapes would not flare?
Yes, we always weight the bottom. Now, we put the two individual weights in the corners. That's a standard for
Hmm.
us. We could have also done a chain weight at the
Hmm.
bottom if we wanted to distribute the weight evenly. In this case, I didn't feel like it would flare. The fabrics were behaved enough where they dressed pretty nicely. So
Just
yeah,
to
we
piggy,
weighted, but not the entire thing.
just to piggyback on that, also, Lenore, what we do here sometimes, if you do find a fabric that is a little fussy, because we are asking fabric to manipulate and go into all sorts of things and directions, we will tack our drapes down. So it almost looks like a retail gun where you're tacking like tickets to clothing. So Bill will add tacks to the back of the pleats to almost form the pleats and dress the pleats. Sometimes if the pleat wants to just um, pull out and whatnot. And then he also, depending on the fabric, he'll tie the drapes too, like with a
Hmm.
light tie, and keep them that way so that you're training the drape to stay in that shape. And he'll steam them too, tied, so that you're really training the fabric. If you have a fabric that's a little bit of a pain in the butt that wants to kind of flare out. So those are just a
With the
couple of,
tags, do you keep the tags or do you cut them out
but
eventually?
you keep them, they're clear. You don't
My
see them.
installer likes those as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I've had to learn how to do it also myself. Sometimes you have to go back, and then if I have to be the one that has to go back to tack and dress. So yeah, it all depends on the fabric, but those are just some couple of things that you could also do, Lenore, on top of also the weights too. Okay. So to keep up with all things Luann, make sure you listen to the podcast. She has a new episode out today. You can follow her on Instagram at Luann Igara, and her website is luannigara.com, where you have access to all podcast episodes, when you can also stream them on all podcast platforms.
And of course, if you guys haven't heard yet, hopefully you have, but every month or so, Luann and I do the podcast version of Window Treatment Friday, where we talk about window treatments and some of our trials and tribulations and wins and losses, and we share some of our experience. So while Kim and I here have the platform where we can show the pictures, Luann and I have the verbal platform to tell you what we really think about the whole process. And if I can even do a little plug for us
Mm-hmm.
on the podcast, in I think in a couple of weeks, there will be an amazing, what I think is one of our strongest episodes, and
Ooh.
it will be all about pricing. Yes, we all want to know how to price window treatments. We all wondering what we should be charging for them, how much they're worth. And Luann and I really pull back the curtain on that. So it's going to be a very powerful episode. I,
So Lenore, I will link in the comments below when we're done recording. I will link in the comment the ebook and where you can get it from our website on that. All right, and then if you want to keep up with us and all of our social platforms, we WindowWorks is at WindowWorks on Instagram and here on Facebook.
nice. Oh, Sorry. I can't. There it is on Instagram.
It's all right.
You know what? They
It's all
don't
right.
have a button where you can do one swipe or one
Both.
click, and
I
you can
know.
like
I know.
switch pictures on both Facebook and
It's all
Instagram. I
right.
have to like manipulate both devices, and
It's
sometimes I
okay.
forget.
It's okay. It's okay. No worries.
All right, and then this is me. Please connect with me. I would love for you guys to come visit me either on my website and grab your free gift, or I hang out here on Instagram quite a bit. I'm
Mhm.
pretty active. I try to post almost every day. I'm also really conscious about highlighting other designers and
Mhm.
also highlighting all the design groups and the amazing things that they are working on, whether it's ASID, IFDA, WCAA, IWCE. So anything that's
Mhm.
happening in the design industry, I love to highlight that in my stories. And also other designers too. If I'm inspired by your work, I will absolutely highlight you on my feed or in my stories and bring spotlight to you. And hopefully you'll get more followers. So, and in the meantime, follow me. I'm Vitalia _ Inc.
Alrighty, everyone. Well, we hope you have a great holiday weekend, and we will see you next Friday at 12.
Because if it's Friday, it's WTF Live.
Exactly.
12 o'clock. See you there. Thanks so
Bye,
much, everyone.
everyone.